gosh, guys, hello again. I cannot believe we are already at chapter 9. Again, it might be slightly cringy, but, at the same time, trust me, trust the process. It's gonna be really fun. I'm gonna take a little break once we hit, chapter 10, because then we'll be going into part 2 of book 1. So hopefully you enjoy it. And here's chapter 9. Chapter 9. They finally returned home and rested. "I should have gone with you, Freya," Maychex said with a sad huff. "It's okay, Maychex, we're all fine. Islia knew she wouldn't do too much," Freya said softly. Garashi was meditating in the flower garden, and Vex was sitting on the roof. Freya went and watched Garashi without him knowing again, and she noticed his red aura faintly forming around him. It took form of a demonic fox standing on its hind legs, and he was just watching over Garashi. Freya stepped back, kicking a rock. The fox's head jerked over in the direction of Freya and stared her down with blank white eyes. It stepped forward and then jumped on top of Freya.
"You will run from me, not him,"
it said in a ghastly voice. The fox demon retreated back into Garashi and sat in front of him.
"Wake,"
it said. Garashi stirred in confusion and opened his eyes. He jumped away from the creature. "Get away!" he shouted. Garashi noticed the red aura all over and tried hitting it away. The creature stood up and growled.
"We must eat the souls of these mortals,"
the demon said. Wait, we? Garashi yelped, frightened by the words. Freya only watched it happen. She couldn't get a word out of her mouth. "Go away! Moonfox! Maychex!" Garashi shouted for help, not noticing Freya yet. Patron, the warthog minotaur, and the gatekeeper heard what was happening and rushed over. "Begone, demon! Leave this boy alone!" he snorted, twisting his grip on his mace. He took a swing at the red being, and the red aura sucked slowly into Garashi. The fox stared at Patron while he disappeared, and a moment later, it popped out and covered Garashi so he wasn't even visible. The beast pounced onto Patron.
"I crave blood,"
an eerie voice growled. Patron tried getting off of him, but nothing worked. "Garashi! Fight him! Get him to stop!" Freya shouted. The demon's mouth opened, and his face cracked open as the mouth grew wide and wider.
"A pig and a man. I think that'll do,"
the eerie voice whispered, with a bunch of sharp teeth slowly growing out of the aura. Just as the mouth was completely extended and ready to kill, Vex shoved a crystal into its mouth. The cracks sealed, and the eyes went blue as it chewed the crystal.
"What is this brilliant flavor?"
he growled.
"It tastes like a panicked soul, full of blood and innocence,"
he cooed eerily. The demon relaxed and let go of Patron.
"I feel like I just killed a hopeless mortal,"
he said, shocked and confused.
"I'll let the kid go, if I get one more,"
the beast asked, sitting down like a dog and patting his tail innocently. Vex rolled his eyes. "I have plenty," he mumbled, and tossed another crystal into the demon's mouth.
"Much gratitude. Thank you, mortal. That was delightful."
The demon chuckled. He opened his mouth and reached inside. He pulled out Garashi and hopped into his chest. Garashi woke up and sat up quickly. "Where is he?" he shouted. The wind blew and kicked up a bunch of flower petals. "What did I do?" he whimpered, noticing all the scratches on Patron. "No, I didn't. I mean, why? I can't be with you guys anymore," he choked. He stood up and ran away into the thick bushes and trees. "Garashi, wait!" Freya shouted, reaching out a hand, but he already disappeared into the forest. Vex kicked at the dirt inside. Freya got out of her hiding spot, still looking in the direction of Garashi.
Who can go look for him?
Patron asked with a snort. He put his mace on his back and started walking into the woods. No, he won't listen to a minotaur he just tried to kill, Vex said, putting a hand on his shoulder.
Should I go?
A small voice behind them asked. It was a koala-looking creature, but also a demon fox. Holy moon babies! Are you Blastier? Freya yelped, completely amazed. With a nod, the demon fox, Blastier, walked past them and headed for the woods. Oh, wait, Blastier, will you join us afterwards? We'd love you to, Vex asked, pointing a hand to the direction of the Minotaur mansion. With a very serious look and a blank tone in Blastier's voice.
No, at least not this time.
Then she quickly ran off for Garashi. Vex wasn't shocked at all. Blastier will eventually, he sighed with a smile. Garashi ran as fast as his legs could take him, which led him to a cliff. Taro has a tail, Freya is really smart, Vex has legs, but I'm just a monster, Garashi cried. Then he sat down and just watched the sunset. What did I do to deserve any of this? He whispered, burying his face in his knees. A while later, Blastier caught up to him and walked up to him slowly, sitting down next to him. Sad that you let Kuroshimu ruin you so badly, she said in a motherly voice, almost identical to Garashi's mother's voice normally. Why do I remember that voice? He asked, looking at Blastier with a confused wrinkle on his face.
Well, it actually was your mother's voice,
she replied happily.
The chiefess always had a way with talking with people.
Garashi was even more confused. Okay, so while they're having some ceremony for Islia, I guess I never really knew her, could you tell me about my mother? I never knew my mother, really. Garashi said, scooting closer to Blastier.
Blastier will find Garashi. Let's honor our friend's glorious death,
Patron said, snorting sadly while licking his nose. He pounded a fist to his chest in respect. Freya didn't say anything. She just walked sadly back to the mansion. There were all sorts of flowers everywhere, and everyone was wearing black, which toned down the mood very much. Vex was listening and participating as he should, but Freya was still looking for Garashi. It was dark and cloudy, and it was almost about to rain. So if she was the chiefess, then that means my dad... Garashi whispered, Wait, that means... He stood up quickly. Blastier tilted her head.
You didn't know that? What else has the Snake Village not told you?
Blastier groaned. She laid down and sighed.
Yes, you are technically the chief of the Village of Saints.
She looked up at Garashi and gave a half-hearted smile. Garashi's eyes expanded and his mouth dropped. So, my dad? He put his hands on his head. Blastier extended her tongue and licked her ear.
He sacrificed his life to save everything,
she said softly, resting her head.
And you know, the spell cannot last much longer. Each one eventually dies, and this one's getting old.
Blastier shrugged, watching the pale expression on Garashi's face.
Now, I didn't come all this way just to make you feel better,
she muttered.
You might want to reclaim your village,
she said, stretching and standing up. Garashi brushed his hair out of his face and took a deep breath. Okay, but I need to control Kuroshimu better so that I don't hurt anyone else, he said softly. Blastier nodded and smiled.
I can help you,
she said, wagging her tail slightly.
Come with me, I'll help you control Kuroshimu,
Blastier said, walking down the rocky path down to the cliff. Maychex, Patron, and Moonfox were standing all respectfully as a black wolf came and lowered the casket full of paper and Islia's spear into the furnace. Freya and Vex stood near them with a little goat minotaur kid. They all watched as a rhino minotaur flicked a match into the furnace. It blew some green sparks and burned the casket. And as the flames rose, the rhino started the grieving howl. He quietly howled, but it grew louder and louder. Soon the wolves joined in, and then everyone else. It sounded like all the animals gathered and cried together. "It's starting to rain," Freya whispered as the drops sprinkled along the field. "We should go inside," Vex whispered back, grabbing her shoulder softly. Rashi followed Blastier into a field, where in the middle was a small hut. "Where are we?" Garashi said, feeling like he's been here before. This place is where Garashi's mother stayed while the foxes attacked, and there was a small dog bed in there as well.
This is where I live, and where your mom did,"
Blastier said, sitting on the dog bed. You know her. You live with her," Garashi said, excitedly jumping and punching the air.
"Yes, but I regretted it very much. I needed a soul to eat, and I couldn't help it, Garashi,"
she whispered, hanging her head regretfully. Blastier, I'm sorry. I never really knew her anyway. It doesn't matter," Rashi said, holding back his tears for some other time. Blastier remembered something important.
"But she had a sweet song she sang a lot. Maybe I could sing it to you,"
she asked, looking up at Garashi with her sad eyes. Garashi nodded softly and looked around the small hut.
"And on my neck, dark clouds above my head, blue shivers down my spine. There's blood, I hope it's not mine. Oh, sweet baby of mine, I think it's time. Ice and leaves, I think you'll leave one day, but now I hold you close, never to let go."
To be honest, she was not the best singer, but it was still a really calming melody. Garashi found a dusty picture book, and it said on the cover, "Two Halves of My Heart." Garashi opened the book, and there were pictures of Garashi as a baby with his mother. "Who's that other kid?" he whispered, and Blastier shot up.
"Oh, that,
She couldn't think of the right words. "He's my brother, isn't he?" Garashi said, wiping the dust off. "Tell me, how long ago did my mom, die?" he said, grabbing the book. Blastier sat by him on the table. About 9 years ago, she said, using the back of her leg to scratch her ear. Rashi reached over and started scratching her ear for her. "Well, I'm gonna find my brother then," he said softly. Rashi noticed that it was raining now. "Okay, maybe in the morning," he chuckled. He grabbed a towel and made a small bed for him to rest in. "You're really nice, Blastier." "Why?" he whispered. Blastier climbed over and plopped into Garashi's lap.
"Well, I guess I never officially joined the fox spook, and you see, I love humans, so I don't really want to hurt them,"
she said guiltily. "That song, I remember it from somewhere," Garashi mused, circling his fingers around her back. Blastier winced and rested her head on Garashi's hand.
"Please don't leave me,"
Blastier whispered. Garashi was shocked. Blastier was asking him to stay? Because he was going to ask her if she would stay with him anyway. Freya couldn't sleep, so she climbed her way onto the roof again. She stayed there and watched the stars. "I figured Darwin, Foxatia, actually, my Blissu, they won't really listen to Garashi as much as they would Kurshimu," Faunus mused. "Can't I get 5 minutes alone?" Freya groaned out loud. "Whoa, sorry," Vex chuckled. Freya whipped around and didn't even know he was there. When did there, Freya scrambled. "Oh, crap, you like him," Faunus chuckled. The words echoed in Freya's head and just made it worse. "Then who were you talking to, Freya?" he asked, sitting down next to her. Sexphonus? Getting a little uncomfortable with how close Vex was. Oh, yeah, you talk with her, he said, sounding disappointed with something. Freya knew it wasn't her he was upset at. What's wrong? Archani doesn't? She asked, surprised when Vex nodded. I've tried to talk with her a lot, he whispered. But I end up talking to myself, he sighed, looking up at the stars. Freya felt bad for Vex. Archani never talked too much anyway, but to not talk once for so long? I don't understand, Vicfana said. Freya nodded. It's okay. For a while, Vicfanus didn't even talk to me, she said, putting a hand on Vex's shoulder. Maybe she just needs more time to trust you, she said, wrapping her arm around him. Nice words, and accurate, Vicfanus complimented, giving a tired chuckle. Yeah, do you think Motaro had to do that too? Vex asked, looking back at the sky. No way! Those two are one person. They'd never have a problem. I highly doubt they would even have to warm up to each other. Freya laughed, bumping against his shoulder. Vex chuckled and shook his head. Yeah, that sounds about right. Motaro is so in sync with Marvelous. He sighed happily, feeling calmer than before. We should go to bed, though. It's getting cold, he chuckled, shuffling around to stand up. Garashi woke up. Blastier was gone, but in his lap was the book. Blastier? Where are you? He asked, standing up and stretching. He noticed a plate of cookies and berries. Blastier, is this for me? He said, looking for her. All of a sudden, Garashi passed out, and when he opened his eyes, he wasn't in control of his own body. Garashi noticed the same red aura everywhere, and he was inside of it. The red demon was wrecking all of the chicken, all of the berries, all of the cookies. He flipped the table. Hoshimu, stop! What are you doing? Vicfanus yelled in his head.
I'm killing that traitor!
He boomed, angrily. Garashi started to panic. He was in so much trouble, and so was Blastier. Kuroshimu ran out of the hut and burst into a roar, shaking the trees and scaring the birds.
Blastier!
Jumping onto the roof of the hut, Freya woke up from a distant noise. Vex, did you hear that? She whispered, walking over to his bed, and Vex was gone. He must have already woken up, she reassured herself. Matrix huffed and entered Freya's room. Vex left. He said Garashi was in trouble, he sighed. Freya immediately panicked. Blastier, Kuroshimu never liked her, Vicfanus muttered. Then I'll go find them both and help Garashi, she said, quickly shoving a roll in her mouth and running out. Freya, wait for me! Vchex shouted, huffing tiredly. Vex jumped out into the meadow and the ruins of the hut. Garashi, where are you? He yelled, checking the hut. Freya came not long after, with Matrix right behind her. Vex, what happened? Vex shrugged and continued looking around the meadow. And that'll be all for Chapter 9. Ooh, I'm so excited for Chapter 10. That's going to be the last of, the Part 1. And, everything kind of picks up. Hopefully you guys are excited too. The recording might not be as good for Chapter 10 because I'm going to be having siblings over. You all know that drill going on over there. And nobody's quiet. So, and I don't have I have the best mic in the world. Anyway, hope you enjoy this. And I'll try to make Chapter 10 worth the wait.